Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another morning of the Lord's Prayer. I'm excited to be before you this morning. We are continuing in the fruit of the Spirit with goodness today. Last week, we spoke about kindness, and we are getting ready to move on into goodness. Goodness is defined in the Merriam-Webster dictionary as the quality or state of being good. It is also defined as being used interjectionally or in phrases, especially to express mild surprise or shock, like, oh my goodness. Or another definition, the nutritious, flavorful, beneficial part of something. Doesn't that sound so good? That makes me hungry. Just saying, I'm a breakfast person, so this is my time to eat. Goodness is an action, right? It's a way of living, it's a lifestyle. It's not something we do only for the sake of being virtuous, but it's how we live, it's who we are, and it's who we are to others. When we strive to be good only for our benefit, it is not truly goodness that we possess. The Greek word for goodness is agathosune. That might be right. Agathosune. Help me with the pronunciation. But it means an uprightness of heart and life. Goodness is a virtue and holiness in action. It's a moral characteristic of a spirit filled believer, a spirit filled person, right? It is not just about you knowing the difference between good and evil. It's not just about a person just being morally good, but it is a lifestyle. It is a characteristic trait. It is virtue. It engulfs holiness of a spirit filled believer, right? Goodness is not a quality that we can manufacture on our own. James chapter 1 verse 17 reads, every good thing given and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights. Everything comes from God, and its intent is to be used in a good manner. Its intent is to be used for others. It's for the benefit of you and the benefit of others and the benefit of God. That's what it's about, right? Galatians 6, verse 10 says, therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. It tells us to do good. It tells us to be good. It tells us not just to be good to others, but also to believers. So it doesn't pick and choose which one. It doesn't say, okay, your friends in church, that's who you can be good to. It says all believers. And it also says, let us do good to all people. So it's not just about the people in church, it's everybody else. The boss you can't stand, the homeless person on the street, whoever it is, the ex boyfriend, the ex girlfriend, right? Your children. It doesn't matter. Goodness is for everyone, all people and all believers. Ephesians 5 and 9 says, for the fruit of the light consists in all goodness, righteousness, and truth. The fruit is in the light. And if you're not in the light, how do you anticipate producing the fruit of goodness? If you are not spending time with Jesus, if you're not spending time with God, if you are not spending the time, if you are not producing the light, you're not producing the fruit, how can you anticipate or expect to have a fruit of goodness, right? Romans 15, verse 14, it says, I myself am convinced with my brothers, sorry, I myself am convinced, my brothers and sisters, that you yourselves are full of goodness, filled with knowledge, and competent to instruct one another. Paul wrote this, and he said that he believes that they were full of goodness then, filled with knowledge and competent to instruct one another. Because when you're filled with goodness and you're filled with knowledge, you're able to instruct each other. You're able to have grace and mercy on each other. You're able to pour out to other people, right? But goodness is required because teaching is laborsome. Teaching is not easy. Teaching to break down so that people can understand, so that people can eat, so that it can be palatable is not easy. But if you operate in the fruit of the spirit of goodness, it says, let you be competent to instruct one another. Expressions of goodness, they vary. Discussing with someone their behavior or their sin demonstrates goodness. I know those are some hard conversations to have where you have to speak to someone and say, what you may have been doing, how you may have been acting, the things you have been saying. They're not pleasing. They're not good behavior. It's destructive more than it is developmental, more than it's producing fruit. But that helps people to want to do better, right? You're assisting someone to do better. You're pushing them to be better, to be a better them, to transform, right? Because sometimes we don't see things but one way. So another viewpoint will help. It's the same thing with giving to the poor. That is a form of goodness. Providing for your children, visiting the sick, volunteering to clean up after a storm, praying for your enemy. It is a form of goodness. Imagine you're in the workplace and your boss just found out that they have cancer and you can't stand your boss. You cannot stand that person. But yet, because they know that you're a Christian, they come to you desiring prayer. What do? Do you turn them down? Do you walk away? Do you say no? Mm-mm. No, because that's not the attitude that you're to have. Goodness says, I'm going to pray for you and I'm going to believe in faith for your healing. I'm going to believe in faith what the will of God is for your life. It's the same thing with the homeless people. It does not mean that we are to look down on them. It does not mean if they take our money and they go and they buy crack and they go and they buy alcohol or they do whatever with it, gamble with it. That is not your concern. Your concern is, I want to help you. So if I have to go and purchase food and bring it to you, if I give you money, I know that I'm giving it with the intent from my heart that you will take it and help yourself to get out of the predicament or the situation that you're in. That's as far as my mind can take it. Because otherwise, then we're judging them for the position that they're in. Pray with them. Give them money, yes. Pray with them. They may need prayer. They may need to be invited to Christ. They may need, in that moment, in that struggle, your goodness. I know sometimes we don't want to touch them because they may appear dirty based on the living conditions. But that's not goodness. When God thought about us as dirty as we were, he touched us. He touched us and he cleansed us and he purified us, and he's the one that has been transforming us. So why would we, who seem to declare that we are made in his image, why would we not want others to know the same, experience the same, right? Jesus repeatedly and willingly accepted interruptions for the sake of others, healing people on his way to heal others, leaving his intimate time with his disciples and his quiet time with the Father to teach and heal. This is another opportunity for us to be good. I know for me, it was a struggle, a challenge, and it still is when, COVID hit and you're home and you have all this work to do. And your family members are interrupted. And you're like, not right now. And then they're like, but it's after 5. But you know you have work to do. And there's so much work because COVID was so brand new and no one's ever experienced it. And if your company wasn't set up to work from home, then it was a whole other level of just confusion. So I would easily get frustrated, right? And and it can't be so. Family is your first ministry. It's your first ministry. And I have learned over this time more and more. Okay, when I'm interrupted, it's not about getting frustrated. Yes, there are times I still do get frustrated, but it's not about getting frustrated. I recognize that, okay, take a deep breath. They just need you for a moment in time. It's okay. You'll go back to whatever it is that you're doing. But that's me actively working on the fruit of goodness with God. That's me going, okay, God, you know the work that I have to do, but this person is in need of me right now. So help me give grace. Help me be merciful, right? And then I go and I do what it is, not begrudgingly. It may not be cheerfully, but I'm trying not to do it begrudgingly. This is how you produce the fruit of goodness. Doing good works without a good heart, just like I said, not begrudgingly, is not goodness. Goodness is often seen in our actions, but our hearts must also be pure. The goodness of Christ is to be demonstrated in our lives every day. Psalm 23, verse 6 says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I want to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. I don't know about you, but I want to dwell here forever. So I want goodness and mercy to follow me all the days of my life. Every trek my feet trek, every step they take, I want goodness and mercy to follow me. Goodness is only possible through God's grace and mercy. He develops the excellence in our character. So if you don't got it right now, if you do not have it right now, it's okay because it's a building block. He's building it up in you. He's building it up through you. But you have to allow him to work. You have to allow him to transform your ways, to transform your thinking, to transform you, sanctify you. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. And the same way, if we can recognize it in ourselves that it does not happen overnight, it's the same way we recognize in others that they will not change overnight. It will take time. And then we can offer them grace because we recognize that we are also sinners, that we are also not without spot. With incomparable goodness, Jesus faced crucifixion with us in mind. In John 12:27, he says, now is my soul troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour, but for this purpose I have come to this hour. This is the ultimate sign of goodness. Jesus deciding to completely forget about himself and think about others so that he can take on death for us. He can take on sin for us. He can take on addiction, sickness. He can take it all on for us. How good can someone get? What more you want? What more do you want? If it's not for that alone, that you're excited, God's goodness towards you. Oh my gosh, I'm just tickling myself over here. When we act out of true goodness of the heart and reflect on the fruit of the Spirit, we are obedient to God's commandments and we seek the benefit of others. It's about us being obedient to God's commandments, right? When God tells you, don't say that, don't do that, that's not it. You should go back and apologize. That's how you develop better characteristic. That's how you develop better character traits. That is how you are developing fruit, by being obedient, by following what God commanded of you. Our actions come from a place of selflessness and we place the needs of others before our own. I'm going to read a story about the Good Samaritan, which is found in, well, it's not a story, it's a parable, in Luke chapter 10, verse 25 through 37. I'm going to focus on verses 30 to 37. In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. In the parable of the Good Samaritan, we clearly see a priest walk by, a Levite walk by, but the Samaritan was the one that stopped. The Samaritan is basically, the best way I can put it, is like a Jew and a Gentile mixed together, right? Like as if a Jew and a Gentile came together and had a child. Just know which way do I go, right? Like, am I totally sold out, or am I like consider the one that's just never any good? You know, that's who a Samaritan was looked at. So if a priest, someone who's considered high in their role, since a lot of times back in the day, prayers had to go through the priest, the sacrifice had to go through the priest. The priest was the only one allowed in the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, the priest was the only one allowed in the tabernacle, in the most holy of holies. The Levite was the worshipers. So you mean to tell me your pastor and your worship leader walked past the man on the street, but the gangbanger came and helped? Just to put it into perspective, right? He stopped and he considered and he said, I'm going to have compassion on this person. I'm going to have compassion on this man who's on the side of the street, who got beat up, who's bleeding, who's who's who doesn't have anything to eat, who needs help. I'm going to have compassion on him. And that's one of the things that are required when we're talking about goodness, is to have compassion on those around you, those that you're interacting with, those that you engage with. The second thing is he had extraordinary giving. Nobody told him to go and get any wine, to get any oil, to do any of that. He took out of his own supply and decided to give that man. Who knows how much oil he used, how much wine he used? You know, wine can be expensive. Then he put him on his own donkey and put the man up in a hotel, in an inn, paid for the inn, then told the man at the inn, take care of him because he has to go away for a little bit. But anything you pay for, anything that you need to help take care of him, I'm going to reimburse you. What kind of giving? And you don't know this person. Giving of you is important in developing goodness. Your ability to give towards others selflessly, without mumbling, grumbling, and being frustrated, that is important. Also, your time is important. Who knows what the Samaritan had to do? But he stopped and he said, I'm going to take the time, spend the time with you. I'm going to do what I have to do to get you back to a place where you will be well. I'm going to have compassion on you. I'm going to give you the things that you need to help build you back up. And I'm going to give you the time. Being a person that has always operated in a place of being an administrative assistant or a secretary or an executive associate or whatever the titles have been, it's been in administration. You're always in service to someone. You are always in service to someone. And I never knew how difficult that could be. I never knew until some years in, when I started to see how people can treat you, how they can talk down to you, how they just make the job more difficult. But then I had to make up in my mind that I'm working as if I'm working unto the Lord. I work as if I work unto the Lord, right? Luke 6, verse 35 reads, but love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is. Do good for them, lend to them without expecting anything back. It's not just about the people you care about. It's not just about the people you like. It's not about the people in your clique. It's about being good to all people, to all believers, to everyone, any and everyone. Being good. Psalms 145, verse 9 says, the Lord is good to all. He has compassion on all He has made. And as I said earlier, if we like to claim that we are made in His image, then we must truly operate and speak and share and display those characteristics of goodness. We must do it for the benefit of others and for the benefit of God. Romans 12:21 says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. The only way that you can win the war, that you can win a battle that you have been facing with someone that has just been hard to please, that has just been unkind to you, that has just been frustrated, that has just felt like the relationship between you and them is just you're tormented, like it's not good. The only way is to, lack of a better word, or the saying we like to say, kill them with kindness, right? We need to do good no matter what. I remember there was someone on one of my jobs that this lady was just, no matter what, to your face, she was a whole other person. She was a whole another being, but behind your back, She was not nice. She was nasty. She was unpleasant, unkind, did not have the greatest things to say. And she caused a lot of grief, a lot of unrest, a lot of turmoil in the office. But no matter what, instead of me dragging her name through the mud or dragging her in the office, I killed her with kindness. What do you need? What do you need me to do? Oh, no, it's okay. I'll do it. No matter what. Oh, you want something to eat? I'll go downstairs and get it. You want some Starbucks? I'm going down there anyway. I'll just pick it up for you. Goodness. Pour and pour and pour out goodness. No matter how difficult it seems. Do the opposite of what you would initially think to do. How about that? Do the opposite of what you initially would think to do. So I hope that this helped you understand not just how to walk out the fruit of goodness, but how to continue developing it with God. Because all of these fruits, without God, they're not fruit of the Spirit. They are not the fruit of the Spirit. With God, these are some major character changes in our lives so that we can be transformed. We can be made anew. People can see the fruit in our lives. One of the greatest things somebody ever said to me, I started a job in 2014 and I used to curse like a sailor. Oh my goodness, I used to curse. That's why I can't take hearing it now. And I used to do a whole lot of things. I can't even remember them right now. But I used to do a lot of things. And I'll never forget, I befriended someone that same year, and we've been friends ever since. We're still friends. And she said to me the other day this year, she was like, it's amazing how your life has changed. Even when we were on that job and people used to come up to you and you were frustrated. And I get why you were frustrated because, all the work was on you and, it was out of your frustration that you'd respond to people and you'd curse at them or you'd whatever. But in that job, you were only there 4 years. But in that role, you changed. Like I saw the change happen before my eyes. Yes, you're continuing to develop, you're continuing to grow, but to see the change happen before my eyes, that is what we need to begin to display. People need to begin to see the change, right? That's the sign. This is the sign in sign language for change. People need to begin to see the change in you. That is the development of the fruit of the Spirit. The evidence. The evidence. The proof is in the pudding. I want the proof that you're changing, that you're transforming, that you're serious about this walk. So I pray that the goodness of God and the mercy of God will continue to follow you all the days of your life. I pray that goodness would arise in you. I pray that goodness would follow you. I pray that goodness would just pour out of your heart. I pray that the first thing you think of is the goodness of God. I pray that the goodness of God would allow you to speak life into people, that the goodness of God would allow you to operate and move where your heart posture is not begrudgingly, but it is in a cheerful manner. I pray that the goodness of God would show up in your workplace. The goodness of God would be in your home, would be anywhere that you go. The goodness of God would pour out on you, in you, and through you. People will see God's goodness. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Won't you join me next week? Same time, same place, every Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Tell somebody.